Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes said, "I cannot tell you how painful it is. I have never known agony like it, and I'm an old man." What do you think he was talking about? Depression. I don't know about you, whether you live down in Depression Valley or up on Serenity Avenue. But when I hit bottom back in '93, I was taken to a local hospital without my consent, but with the assistance and insistence of the police, and later transferred with my consent to a Toronto hospital, as Linda said, under the care of a psychiatrist. Linda McCurr. Okay, it is on.
You're going to turn you on.
Linda McCurr, Community Care Diners Club, my friends. On this day when we celebrate the departure of the snakes from Ireland, I'd like to share with you a brief glimpse of three aspects of depression and anxiety. How it is viewed from the outside, but felt inside, antidepressant pills or antidepressant skills, and an ancient therapy, lifestyle therapy that does not cause side effects. First, how is depression viewed from the outside? One of my professors said about a depressed relative, and I quote, "You want to kick the self-centered bastard in the shins and tell him to snap out of it." Depressed people, their illness invisible, are blamed and expected to get out of their mood at the snap of a finger, which is about as fair as expecting a person with a leg in a cast to do the same. How does it feel inside? I thought if only sleep would last forever. I recall being in bed till afternoon, hopeless, unable to concentrate, worried, under-eating, physically underactive, mentally overactive, questioning the value of staying alive, and always my attention on myself. The philosopher Lao Tzu said, "If you do not change direction, you may end up where you were heading." Now, where the depressed are heading, if they don't change direction, may be to a dead end. One morning on the way to work, I nearly drove over the edge of a bridge. Among Canadian teenagers, do you know the second leading cause of death?
Suicide.
Absolutely, suicide. Do you know what proportion of those suffered from depression? 90%. Now, about a month before I gave this version of this speech at Norwood District High School, a student in grade 10, a young boy from Havelock, went over the edge before he was able to change direction. Suicide is not chosen. It happens when the pain exceeds the resources for coping with the pain, it is said. I think more correctly, it happens when the resources they are aware of for coping with the pain, they're not aware of them. Because there is a solution. Help is available. Many people who had full-blown depression, and I'm one of them, have it no longer. Viewed from the outside, depression may look like no more than tiredness or a lack of enthusiasm. What does it feel like inside? Like hell warmed over. Second, antidepressant pills or antidepressant skills. Antidepressant drugs are meant to raise the level of serotonin in the brain. When you're feeling down, some of this so-called happy chemical has gone AWOL, and there's not enough left to let you access your happy feelings. What are the two most common side effects of antidepressants? Sexual dysfunction, 50%, and insomnia, 25%. Two of the commonest symptoms of the very illness itself. What could be more depressing than not being able to sleep or have sex? I couldn't think of anything either. What happens when you go to the doctor with depression? Ideally, they will do a complete blood workup to outrule medical conditions that can mimic depression. Things like low thyroid, low B vitamins, anemia with low iron and other minerals, and some street drugs. And if your doctor reaches for the prescription pad before reaching for the blood requisition pad, it's time to give your doctor a pink slip. I went into hospital with depression. I came out with depression, plus brain memory damage, slow plumbing, no sleep for 3 weeks, and no sex drive. Well, somebody might say, what are you complaining about? There's Viagra in Niagara and Cialis in Dallas. True, they do the job, but they can raise other problems. Eye damage and migraines. My libido was resurrected only after I went to an herbalist/energy healer. But I haven't fared so well with my short-term brain memory damage. That's why I have to keep these notes handy. Well, drugs can cause some problems, you say, but they can't kill you, can they? U.S. drug reaction reports from 1984 to 2004 show, obtained through Freedom of Information laws, show while on Prozac 1,313 deaths. The makers of Paxil, in their first 15 years, spent $390 million on suicide-related claims. Do you remember Tucker Goldberg once ran against Mel Lastman for mayor of Toronto? In 2004, he jumped off the Halifax Bridge. The Toronto Star headline read, "Did drug cause activists suicide?" His wife thought it had. He'd been on Remeron. The note that he left behind had 3 words: "I can't think." Isn't it ironic that a treatment intended to balance the brain could mangle the mind? Drug companies would say that depressed people are at risk of suicide. That's why they're on antidepressants in the first place. Do you know why the National Health Service of the United Kingdom has recommended that antidepressants not be prescribed for anyone under age 25? Because in that age group, they increase thoughts of suicide. This written warning is in the inserts in all antidepressants in the US and Canada. It starts like this: medical studies indicate the drug carries a significant risk of serious or even life-threatening adverse effects. And then it mentions the suicide business with the people under age 25. Although it's generally accepted that a lower level of serotonin in the brain accompanies depression, accompanies the lower mood, the real question might be, does the drop in serotonin cause the drop in mood? Or does the drop in mood cause the drop in serotonin? I once asked a pharmacist how long a person should stay on an antidepressant. His reply? Well, for the rest of your life. Drug companies don't claim that antidepressants cure depression, or that when you go off them, you'll be any less vulnerable to stress or relapse. Their claim is that your serotonin level will rise and will blunt the keen edge of pain while you're on the drug. But when, for whatever reason, you discontinue, and soon there's no drug left in your bloodstream, you're just as vulnerable to stress and relapse as you ever were. Unless, in the meantime, you've developed some antidepressant skills. What are the antidepressant skills? Primarily correct thinking. How is incorrect thinking corrected? One way is through talk therapy, counseling. Definition: psychiatrist. A person who asks you a lot of expensive questions you get asked at home for nothing. The most popular form is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. The great psychologist William James said, "The greatest discovery of our generation is that people can change their lives by changing their attitude, changing the way we think." In one of the best books on depression I know, other than my own, of course, The New Mood Therapy Feeling Good, David Burns says, your emotions follow your thoughts, just as baby ducks follow their mother. But the fact that the baby ducks follow faithfully along doesn't prove the mother knows where she is going. But correct your thinking, and your feelings fall in line. And just as our feelings are influenced by our thoughts are influenced by our actions. Act for yourself alone, and your thoughts and your feelings which follow your thoughts can drag you down to despair. But act for others, and your thoughts and feelings can be lifted to laughter. Why, you may ask, are drugs prescribed if they don't hit the broadside of a barn and they cause side effects? Well, it's not that they don't usually hit the target. They usually do. The problem is that they often hit the areas surrounding the target as well. And depending on the collateral damage they cause, is the cure worse than the disease? But you say, taking pills is a lot easier than correcting my thinking pattern. A large ongoing study by the U.S. Department of Health shows a failure rate of 70%, 70. And in the 30% success group, they made a surprising discovery. In that group were more people who had a partner, a spouse or a partner. Question, were some of those helped as much by having their attention focused on their mate as by the drug? Which leads us to number 3, an ancient antidepressant lifestyle therapy that doesn't cause side effects. We've looked at antidepressant pills and antidepressant skills. Now we look at the antidepressant will, or what might more accurately be called an antidepressant attitude or lifestyle. I began to see this therapy early on in my study of spirituality. Not that I followed it. It's in the holy books. Take the Torah of Judaism. Job was very badly depressed. We may recall the patience of Job. But do we recall how he was cured of his depression? How he raised his serotonin level? And God turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. When he got his eyes off himself and onto the needs of others. The New Testament likewise connects healing to concern for others. Confess your faults to one another and pray for one another, that you may be healed. I was making a longer version of this speech at the Toronto Public Library, and I quoted the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, who once defined hell as other people. And a lady came up to me after, and she said she agreed with Sartre. Of course, if he were right, then to other people, I'm hell. And for all I know, I guess she would be too. But if it's true, as all the sacred books say, that we get mercy by granting mercy to others, then wouldn't other people more accurately be called my ticket to heaven? Someone has defined a cow as a machine which makes it possible for people to eat grass. Now, similarly, other people are the medium through which the depressed can find happiness again. When my 6 siblings and I were younger, our mother bought us one of those red, white, and blue sponge balls. And we used to bounce it off the back of on the brick wall at the back of the house. And it was such fun because it would bounce really fast. Life is like this ball. It has a bounce back. What we do for others, good or bad, we do for ourselves. At warp speed. What does the antidepressant lifestyle demand we do? 3 things. Clear the deck of guilt, clear the deck of self-pity, and deck the hall with kind deeds. 1. Clear the deck of guilt. A guilty conscience can mimic depression as easily as certain physical conditions can. Many, in removing their guilt, have thereby removed their depression. How to escape if guilt has you in a headlock? Simply admit to the person you hurt what you did, how you feel about it now, and try to make restitution. For we can take a pailful of Paxil, but we won't budge a depression that's caused by guilt. David R. Hawkins says, there is no antidepressant that will cure a depression that is spiritually based. For the malaise doesn't originate from brain dysfunction, but from an accurate response to the desecration of life. And going to church won't cure guilt. Don't take my word for it. Writers make a living making stuff up. Jesus said, if you're at your place of worship, and you remember that somebody has something against you, leave immediately and become reconciled. Abraham Lincoln said, when I do good, I feel good. And when I do bad, I feel bad. That's my religion. And we all know inside that whatever we believe, what really matters is what we do. Faith without works is dead. Some would think this unimportant. One of my professors said, we come into this world getting burped off the edge of a cliff, and we leave it with a splat at the bottom. And he seemed to imply it doesn't much matter what we do between the burp and the splat. And I thought, what a marvelous, masterful metaphor. But I wasn't sure if I believed it. Now I'm sure I don't. For if you've hurt as many people as I have, you'll know that what we do in this world makes a world of difference to how we feel. When I was farming, a black and white Holstein heifer wandered onto the property. How long she was there or what I did to try to locate her owner, I don't recall. What I do recall was sending her to the sale and pocketing the money and feeling guilty. That part my conscience would not let me forget. Until about 30 years later, while reading a novel by George MacDonald, I knew I had to deal with it. But how? I never did find her owner. But I learned that a neighbor had lost a different young cow then. And when it occurred to me that I had gained the value of a cow I didn't deserve to gain, and he had lost the value of a cow he didn't deserve to lose, a number came to my mind. I went to the bank, then back to my neighbor. And to make a long story short, the black cloud I used to see inside every morning when I woke disappeared into thin air. Guilt keeps my attention on myself. And self-attention is what causes and perpetuates depression and anxiety in the first place. And being our strongest emotion, even stronger than loss, it saps our energy. It makes it impossible for us to do the things that will treat depression. 2, clear the deck of self-pity. For in our self-pity, we can draw the lines and lock and bar the door. But that bar that keeps me in keeps others out. And until I reach out and open the door to others, which is an inside job, I'm my own jailer. Whereas guilt requires me to ask someone else to forgive me, self-pity requires me to forgive someone else. How do I forgive? Try to act as if the bad behavior did not happen. When I throw someone else under the bus, I throw myself under. If I free my tormentor, I free myself of a tormented memory. If I don't, I'm eating rat poison to kill a rat. Kindness pays. So does self-centeredness. To be serene or to be depressed? That is the question. That prof who said you want to kick the self-centered you-know-what in the shins was partly right. For the crux of this malady is self-centeredness. And self-centeredness and happiness do not hold hands. In fact, not only do they not go together, they've never met. Contentment is the consequent bounce back of kind deeds to others. 3, deck the halls with kind deeds. When my daughter Jillian was 8 years old, I heard her say to her brother in the yard, "You know, I feel better when I give something away." Now, this childhood insight is in all the holy books. The Torah says, "He that refreshes others shall himself be refreshed." Rumi in Mystic Islam says, "In that moment you are drunk on yourself, you are the prey of a mosquito. And the moment you leap free of yourself, the moon catches you and hugs you in its arms." And in these succinct, subtle words of Jesus, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." This illness thrives where there's a shortage of sharing, where a person is isolated and immobile. The poor mother of a large family put up a sign in her kitchen, "Share. Follow Miss Piggy's rule. Don't eat more than you can lift." In my first year of teaching in a 2-room school in Marlbank, which is near Tweed, I started keeping a notebook of quotations, out of which my first book came. One of the first that I wrote into this book was a poem, "A House by the Side of the Road" by Sam Walter Foss. One verse goes something like this: "Let me live in a house by the side of the road. It's here the race of men go by. They are good, they are bad, they are weak, they are strong. Wise, foolish, so am I. So why should I sit in the scorner's seat or hurl the cynic's ban? Let me live in a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man." Are there things that anyone can do, no matter which therapy they are following? Yes, I call them the 10 Commandments to Contentment, or the 10 Steps to Serenity. I'll give you the top 3. 1, express yourself. Take a half-hour walk, smile. 1, express yourself. My shrink said to me, "Murray, you don't like to rock the boat, but you've got to learn to stand up and speak up for yourself." Of course, I still don't stand up in the boat. Phillips Brooks said, "Keep clear of concealment. It is better to be hated for who you are than loved for who you are not." Depression is anger turned inward because it wasn't turned outward. Expression, or pressing out, is the opposite of depression, or pressing in or down. But anger is going to express itself somewhere, either through your vocal cords, or through the vertebrae in your lower spine, or somewhere worse. Woody Allen said, "I don't verbalize easily. I grow a tumor instead." 2, take a half-hour daily walk. This has been found in many studies to equal or surpass the effect of pills and or talk therapy. I find I sleep much better when I take this walk just before or after the last meal of the day. Fred Allen said, "I like long walks, especially if taken by people who annoy me." I no longer cut or burn firewood, but they also say splitting wood can cut your troubles in half, and piling wood can straighten out your thoughts. 3, smile. They found that putting a smile on your face, even when you're feeling down, especially when you're feeling down, can reconnect you to happier moments. For your brain takes what's on your face at face value, and sends that message throughout your whole body. G.K. Chesterton said, "Angels can fly." Do you know why? because they take themselves lightly. Satan fell by the force of gravity. While the physical brain disease model is indifferent to others, our interaction with others is what this spiritual lifestyle relationship model is all about. The author Nathaniel Hawthorne said, "I've got me into a prison and I don't have the key to let myself out." What is the key out? Because the common characteristic of depression is self-preoccupation, the key out is preoccupation with the needs of others. Simply see and treat others as yourself. I started by making eye contact, then a smile, then a cup of cold water, and I gradually went on from there. But you ask, isn't that a long, hard road? Paying attention to the needs of others for the rest of my life? AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, says, "The thought of not drinking for the rest of my life is as impossible to accomplish as it is to imagine. But we can decide not to drink today. And with the help of our higher power, we can deal with tomorrow when it comes." Maybe that's the way to deal with this dark night of the soul, one day at a time. Don't contemplate being absorbed with the needs of others for the rest of your life. Simply do a good deed to one person who is worse off than yourself today. You deal with tomorrow. But you may ask, how do you teach an old dog new tricks? How do I get rid of my self-attention? Don't focus on it. When you take your car to get lubricated, do they worry how they're going to get rid of the old grease? No. It's the injection of the new grease that results in the ejection of the old. Simply put your attention on the needs of others, and your self-attention, the love of depression, will gradually diminish automatically. If I buy this, you say, is there a short mantra that will keep me on track? There is. Just as there is a slogan, foolproof slogan for losing weight, eat less, exercise more, there is a motto for losing depression and anxiety. Help others, help yourself. If we got a midterm in the School of Life, would we be making the grade? I like how Marianne Evans puts the report card questions. When you sit down at set of sun and count the deeds that you have done, and counting find one word that eased the heart of him who heard, one glance most kind, that fell like sunshine where it went, then you may count that day well spent. But if through all the livelong day you cheered no heart by yea or nay, if through it all you've nothing done that you can trace, that brought the sunshine to one face, one act most small, that helped some soul and nothing cost, then count that day as worse than lost. As we approach the end, we've briefly scanned three therapies. That's easy for me to say. The brain disease model, which sees depression as chemical imbalance and prescribes pills. The mind disease model, which sees depression as cognitive impairment and prescribes correct thinking. And what I call the lifestyle disease model, which sees depression as self-absorption and prescribes focusing on the needs of others. If you can't take drugs for whatever reason, consider this ancient treatment. If you believe drugs are helping you, don't throw them out. And if you're in talk therapy, remain. Simply add the antidepressant lifestyle treatment to the approach you're using now. For there's nothing in this lifestyle therapy that excludes anything in the mind model. It simply goes farther. The drugs left me with depression, plus short-term brain memory damage. Talk therapy left me with my depression, but also many new insights. Lifestyle relationship therapy has enabled me to look at depression in the rearview mirror. Sadness, said William Bernard Oliphant, consists in a morbid concentration on oneself. But let the will make a little effort to be kind and considerate to another, and it is amazing how soon that malignant charm is broken. And don't think that huge changes are required. A little change can make a big difference. Take a little thing like spelling in the church bulletin. On Saturday, there will be a potluck at 12, followed by prayer and medication. We've looked at pills, skills, and will. In my experience, you can't pill pop your way into peace of mind. You can't think yourself into peace of mind. But you can, to excuse the language, F-word yourself into peace of mind. Forgive, fess up, and focus. 1, forgive others. This wipes out your self-pity over what they did to you. Fess up to others. This wipes out our self-pity for what... Sorry, I think I got that mixed up. Forgive. This wipes out your self-pity for what they did wrong to you. Fess up. And this wipes out your anger at yourself for what you did to them. Focus on the needs of others. This wipes out our self-attention, the parent of both self-pity and self-anger. And as cheerfulness enters stage right, depression exits stage left. But isn't this lifestyle hard? Yes, nearly half as hard as not doing it. The great psychiatrist Alfred Adler said, "You can be healed if every day you begin first thing in the morning to bring a real joy to someone else. Do this for 2 weeks," he said, "and you will no longer need therapy." I don't know about you. Whether you live down in Depression Valley or up on Serenity Avenue. Myself, I no longer live down in Depression Valley. When I got off all the drugs and got onto Merciful Kindness Boulevard, I ended up on Serenity Avenue. Whichever way you turn onto Merciful Kindness Boulevard will take you to Serenity Avenue. That's because Merciful Kindness Boulevard is really a huge circle that crosses every pleasant road. Back then I thought if only sleep would last forever. Now morning comes like a faithful friend. Henry Van Dyke said, "Self is the only prison that will ever bind the soul. Love is the only angel that can bid the gates unroll. And when he comes to thee, arise and follow fast. His way may lie through darkness, but it comes to light at last."